Fast fashion. It's a term that we hear all the time, but what is it and where does it come from? It's a term given by retailers to describe the process of speedy clothing production. It captures a trend straight from the catwalk and replicates them for high street and online brands at a fraction of the price. Surprisingly, a lot of our favourite high street brands actually fall into this category. Some of the top contenders for fast fashion brands in the UK are Primark, Boohoo, Zara, Pretty Little Thing, Missguided and Topshop. So if fast fashion provides us with accessible high-end looks at a small cost, what's the problem? With the fashion industry growing more than ever before, our attention is often brought to the quick mass production of garments, which is usually followed with concerns about the environmental impact that this has on the planet. But when it comes to the clothes that we buy, thinking about the person who made our trendy garments isn't typically what comes to mind. There's a general consensus that retailers frequently export labour overseas to maximise their bottom line. This provides cheaper clothing for consumers and a healthy profit for brands. But what is often swept under the carpet is the unethical production of garments and the labour exploitation of the workers that make them. A recent investigation into a factory in Leicester, which makes clothes for fast fashion giant Boohoo, shone a light into the UK's dark relationship with fast fashion, exposing illegal, underpaid workers in terrible conditions. But this isn't a new issue. As well as factories closer to home, retailers source labour from factories in countries such as Bangladesh, India, Indonesia and Cambodia. And those employed tend to be women aged around 18 to 35, living in patriarchal societies, unable to escape poverty and usually earning only half of what is needed to meet their basic needs. A 2019 Oxfam report found that 0% of Bangladeshi workers and just 1% of Vietnamese workers earned a living wage in the garment industry. Employees are also subject to frequent physical abuse, sexual harassment, poor work conditions and forced overtime, which inevitably creates a climate of fear in the workplace and fuels workers' submission to achieve fast fashion's high production demands. But if this is happening in the factories, what links do retailers have to this exploitation? Retailers often outsource to supplier firms in developing countries. These are known as Tier 1. These companies then subcontract their production to manufacturers or suppliers which are not officially authorised by the brand themselves. And because of this, brands are under no legal obligation to ensure decent working conditions at the bottom end of their production chain. And because unauthorised subcontractors are unregistered, they operate without government regulation and oversight, meaning unethical labour and abuse is commonplace in this environment. Some retailers blame factories for this exploitation, but brands' relentlessness for cheap prices can make it impossible to improve the standards of work. And during the coronavirus pandemic, many workers overseas have been denied their wages or fired as retailers have pulled orders and demanded discounts on stock. Scandals about exploitation of garment workers have heightened media and consumer awareness, forcing brands to highlight what new measures they could take in order to ensure better conditions. But as consumers, if we're so outraged by this exploitation, why do we keep on buying from the brands that are to blame? If you have an interest in fashion, it's likely that you're constantly exposed to it, particularly on social media. We have an infinite timeline consisting of recommended products strategically placed by a clever algorithm, which shows us new items with too good to be true discounts to lure us into buying. And as well as the direct advertisements from brands, many of these products are also paid promotions by celebrities and influencers. In fact, last year Fashion Nova spent $5.5 million on this type of marketing. And in a time where influencer culture is so prominent, brands have been able to maximise sales by tapping into the consumer's desire to stay up to date with fashion. And with a constant cycle of trends and styles, have we developed a throwaway culture and a desire for novelty that's putting a growing demand on the fashion industry's most vulnerable? Although it's down to fast fashion companies themselves to step up, as consumers, what can we do to help? Recycle items that you no longer want. This can be recycling the material or donating to shelters and charities. They're always in need of help, and this will prolong the life of your items even longer. Buy from smaller companies and ethical brands. You'll often get to know more about where a product is sourced from and who made it. But with better quality does equal a higher price tag. So if this isn't in your budget, start creating a capsule wardrobe instead and buy key items that will be on trend each season. Years ago, fashion brands captured seasonal trends around 4 times per year, which made it so much easier for people to have a longer lasting wardrobe. But today, brands like H&M design around 12 to 16 collections per year, while Zara have been known to produce a whopping 24. So creating a capsule wardrobe will inevitably lower your consumption and the desire to be on trend, because you'll always have the staples of a great outfit. And to get your fashion fix, buy seasonal and trendy accessories that incorporate on-trend patterns or textures, but don't require you to buy a whole new wardrobe. So although fast fashion brands need to change their purchasing and advertising ways to provide more of a sustainable and ethical model, playing your part as a consumer can make a big difference. Thinking about your own consumption and relationship with fashion can really help to create less of a demand in the long run, and it will mean less of a strain on the most affected in the fast fashion industry.